The protagonist was looking bewitched, but in reality the girl whose rear back he was about to apply his personal herbal homemade medicine. The girl was using some kind of seduction technique. No man was able to withstand her mystic skills, and they thought that the true nature of the protagonist would expect it to be revealed, and the girl further encouraging the protagonist to follow his instincts. The protagonist leaned his hand forward and touched her back with bewitched eyes. But then suddenly he heard his own voice to stop. The protagonist then slapped himself back to his senses. Recovered from the mystic aura, the protagonist apologized and confessed that he felt like he was being controlled by something and apologized again. The other girl acknowledged to the other that the brat, referring to the protagonist, was good. The other reaffirmed, saying that the protagonist has a good character. Then the girl with blue eyes called out to the protagonist and congratulated him for passing out the test. The protagonist felt puzzled. She continued with her introduction while showing off her golden aura. Her name was Su Meiyao, and she was the lord of the Danxiang Herbal Manor, and the other was her senior sister Bai Yuyu, who was flowing with bright purple aura, the princess of the devil domain. The protagonist stammered with astonishment and repeated their words. Su Meiyao continued. She revealed that they were attacked by their personal enemy, and were severely wounded and unable to move, and also acknowledging that they have lost their previous strengths. Su Meiyao further added that formidable demon beasts lurk around the area where they are all currently occupying, and so they all had to escape quickly. The protagonist immediately asked to share the plan to escape. Bai Yuyu then replied that by gifting him the extreme yin and yang divine veins of her and her sister, the protagonist can refine and break through the death chi of the immortal devil cliff and escape. Su Meiyao included by saying that with herself and her sister character, even if they die, they would not give their veins to a person of low character, and thus was the reason behind Sister Bai Yuyu's seduction test. The protagonist then, for reconfirmation, asked had he passed the test. Sister Bai Yuyu told the protagonist not to rush thinking he passed the test, as the fusion and refinement of divine veins was not something ordinary and normal people could do, warning that there may even be chances of dying. Sister Bai Yuyu then advised the protagonist to either think carefully or refuse. The protagonist, seeing the opportunity, had no way to refuse and accepted, with a thought that this was his golden chance. Sister Su Meiyao then, with affirmation, officially asked the protagonist, Shen Xiang, if he was willing to sign the blood pact with two of them, and receive the divine veins and help them recover their cultivation in future. The protagonist confirmed and with determination also added that as long as he became stronger, he would do anything. And so, they began the process to transfuse the divine veins on the protagonist by both the sisters, by letting their chi energy flow through the protagonist. The protagonist felt the huge surge of power, his veins popping and bulging, almost exploding, and his eyes reddened and steam of smoke flowed out from his mouth, and then the veins started to bleed. Sister Su Meiyao then noticeably asked if the fusion of divine veins was difficult for the protagonist, as the protagonist's meridians were already broken and his divine consciousness was also constantly shrinking. Suddenly, there was a loud growling sound, shaking the cave and the place. Sister Su Meiyao with fright asked whether the protagonist had touched the hellgrass spirit, as it was the sound of ferocious beast. The beasts guarding the hell spirit grass had seemed to sense something, and all the guardian beasts were above the 7th level, and at that rate they would all die. Su Meiyao then asked Shen Xiang whether he wanted to continue, as his conditions were difficult at the moment, or give up, saving half his life. But the protagonist reiterated that he would not give up, answering with difficulty, and blood drooling from his eyes. The protagonist reflecting that he was unlucky to have been born without spiritual veins, and even though he had worked hard to enhance his physique, he was not able to catch up to others, and that he couldn't even help his beloved family either, and that now the golden opportunity was presenting itself to him. The protagonist roared with all his might and excitement that even if he was to die, he would not give up. Then, with a loud thud and blood exploding from his veins, he fainted. Both girls were shocked, and Sister Su Meo, while addressing to the protagonist, calling him as little brat. At the same time, a loud sound of wall collision was heard, with stone and dust pieces debris flying around. Both the girls glared behind, as if some sinister aura was felt. Through the broken hole, a huge demon beast roared, fang long as knives, and head and body shaped like a dinosaur, hair on the back of the head and on the neck. Both women were dazed and shocked, not knowing what to do as the protagonist had fainted. Sister Bai Yuyu pointed out to her sister to look at the protagonist's wounds and meridians, healing in their own. Su Meo affirmed with amazement and said that if the protagonist was lucky and smoothly manages to refine his two divine veins, there was no opponent he could not overcome. Yu, sensing the situation's distress, shared with her sister that they would distract the demon beast and give time for the protagonist to heal, as slim hope lay on his recovery. Both the women with confidence faced the demon beast, and both turned to the beast to attack simultaneously, but the demon beast proved too strong for both of them and lashed at them, throwing them against the walls. Both lay defeated with blood sprouting from their mouth. Sister Bai Yuyu thought that if they had their original powers, they would have defeated the beast with just one strike. The beast, roaring and without giving any attention to the girls, ran towards the protagonist, with open mouth, to devour him. Sister Bai Yuyu, noticing the beast's focusing its attack on the protagonist, launched an attack with grasping soul devil curse, a whip made out of chi, and wrapped it around the beast's tail and pulled. The beast, losing its balance, fell, with his chin hitting the ground. Bai Yuyu, being observant, thought of buying some time for Shen Xiang. The beast, without giving any chance, pulled its tail up, dragging Bai Yuyu in the air, and with a heave/slash knocked Bai Yuyu to the ground. The beast then, having dealt with Bai Yuyu, focused its gaze towards Shen Xiang, who was still in the state on unconscious, and with its huge mouth opened, lunged towards Shen Xiang, while the two girls stood helpless with injury. A golden light struck the beast, sending it flying. The impact was so huge both the girls fell on the floor. Su Meo then sighed that his fusion was faster than they expected. Both were relieved. A figure stood before them with thick golden aura surrounding him. No traceable marks of injury was visible, and with a new sense of aura and power, the protagonist opened his eyes. Knowing that the path ahead will be very different, the protagonist was reborn.